Hey guys, Dishsoap here with the 14.1 headliner and comp tier list. Sorry this is delayed. I've just been kind of lazy. But yeah, let's just get right into it. And if you want to reference these comps during game, then I'd like to introduce you to the Mobalytics TFT overlay. You get access to the best team comps by challenger experts, myself included, directly in-game. There are also full guides attached to each comp, as well as automatic augment data and an item cheat sheet. Click the link in the description to download. This video, I'm not really going to go over every comp. It's more of like a, you need to know these comps kind of video. I'll mention other comps that like are maybe playable when I go over the headliners, but if I were to like go over every single comp I know in like a team planner, this would be like, I don't know, an hour and a half video. And some of them are just pretty niche. Anyways, for the headliners, for the one costs, the meta has basically flipped. I'm pretty sure if you can go back like to like my first or second video, like my opinions on these would be all different. Last patch they just buffed and nerfed a lot of units, so obviously stuff like that's going to change. Especially on stage 2, Tarek and Olaf are just beasts. They both do decent damage, but are really, really tanky. I pretty much never skip these. I think they're really good. I will note though that like Tarek specifically falls off hard stage 3. If you're like win streaking with the Tarek frontline early game, I would recommend selling them stage 3 and rolling for something else. Olaf you can actually keep for longer. And there's also like some like niche Olaf reroll comp, but I would really only play it with the Gargantuan Titans augment and the Bruiser Explode and Death augment. I'm sorry, I don't remember what they're called. I'm really bad with augment names. I mean, I guess it's the S tier. I renamed these tiers to just like explain. In the A tier, we have good with a slummable item. I actually do end up like skipping these a lot of the time if I don't have an item for them. Also, if like just the trades don't work well. But like, I don't know, if you have a Corki with like a summable item, like an IE or like anything, he's pretty good. But obviously, if you're just like bowing your Corki, he's not that good. Honestly, Nami's a little better than Corki. And Nami's kind of the same. She got buffed a lot, so she's good. Vi, okay, honestly, Vi doesn't really need an item, but I think she's better than Kench and Kazante, and I think she's worse than the top two. So I put her in this tier anyways. Eve, especially with like Hodge Superfan plus 1 item, she can pop off, but try to sell her. Stage 3, she falls off a cliff just like Tarek. Yasuo's pretty good. Yasuo reroll is like kind of a thing now. If you have like, if you just start off with like infinite Yasuos, I wouldn't play it if you don't like start off with a lot. I believe his BIS is something like Edge of Night, i.e. Hodge or something. Like don't quote me on that. That's what I've seen people build though. But he can also just be an early item holder for like Riven Yone comps. It's pretty decent. Jinx is here. She's good with like an attack speed item early. Ginsu is actually fine to slam now. I don't know if you have like something like that, you can take her. But a no item Jinx is probably the worst unit in the game, like worst headliner in the game. Annie kind of the same. No item Annie is a piece of shit. Like even worse, like she's like D tier. Also she like is a lot better when she has emo active. Like either you get Spellweaver and you get like dropped in a Mumu or something, or you get emo chosen. Without emo chosen, it's kind of sus playing her. Like I probably wouldn't buy it. But if you have emo active and get like 1-2 items on her, she can actually crank. Even 2-star Annie can like last you all the way to stage 4 with the right setup. And then in C tier we have the good with traits active tier. Like I don't think either of these two are like very good units, but if you have country active, Kench is amazing. And then Heartsteel is still really good early. So obviously buy Kazante if you are close to Heartsteel. And then it's funny because I think at some point these two were in the top tier, Lily and Keden. And now they're in like the skip tier. I think it's like fine to buy them if you have like enough damage already in your natural units. Like say, I don't know, you just find 3 Corkis and a Kaisa, and then you see KDA Lilia. I mean, obviously you're just gonna buy it for some frontline, and it makes sense with your Kaisa, right? But outside of stuff like that, I would just be looking for one of the better ones. 2 costs, I actually think the 2 cost balance is, at least for like mid-game tempo stuff, is actually really, really solid. I think there's a use case for almost everything, but I'll go over them real quick. Seraphine, I think she's the best AP item holder in the game for comps like TF and Karthus. Also, Seraphine reroll is quite a good comp. I think it's like one of the better rerolls, definitely the best 2-cost reroll in my opinion. I don't go over it here, I think it's like a little niche, but the gist is you go like, it's like Shojin +1, and then you go Superfan, your Superfan items with death cap. The last item's either like Morello or Nashers, I don't really think it matters. And basically you play like Superfans, Spellweavers, and KDA. Your Seraphine kills the big disco clumps, Ahri can kill single target. Actually caps late game pretty well because you can like duo carry Ahri, Sona. It's a pretty good comp. I think Kale is an amazing item holder. She's gotten buffed like the past 3 patches because they want to keep making this unit viable for reroll. I know there's a video on my channel where I played reroll Kale, but even in the video's comments, I told people not to play Kale reroll. The problem with Kale reroll is that she's basically just limited by time because her spell lasts a flat 5 seconds and most of the spell's damage comes from like the big bursts at the end. The later the game goes and the faster the fights are, because people play more damage and stuff, and the more targets there are on the board, like Alawi tentacles, she just like gets outscaled so hard no matter what. But when stuff like that, like when the fights are longer in the early game and there's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 targets, she's a beast. Absolute menace. Definitely don't skip her if you're just trying to item hold. Gnar is amazing. He's like the best melee item holder right now. The problem with Gnar, what used to be, is that he would jump in and everyone would target him. But now they coded it so that he has like a delay, like the enemies have a delay before they can target the Gnar. Range units will basically never target him, but melee units will if he's like the closest, so if they're like backlining melees or something. But it just makes it like the Gnar like a little bit safer for the first seconds of fight, lets them like ramp up a little bit. I also think Gnar reroll is like low-key playable, but I haven't had enough experience with it. Yeah, but honestly, like, you could probably make it work. I think, like, the only good one is Superfan, though. Like, Superfan chosen. Kaisa, she's, like, the best AD item holder. Like, if AD Flex was as good as it was last patch, she would be super high prio. I'll talk about why that's not the case later on, but she's not that good with, like, the generic like AP attack speed setup. So you slam like a I don't know, like a Gunblade Shojin trying to flex like TF or something. Kaisa's actually not very good with those items. She needs like basically full burst because she has a lot of survivability in her kit and she doesn't have like any AP scaling. So if you don't have like triple AD, she's not gonna do that much, but if you do, she will actually just like one-shot everything. Twitch is here, like, I don't actually think Twitch is that strong. As like a random headliner you should buy in the mid game, but Twin Terror Twitch reroll is like SSS tier, so I don't know, I just put him up here. Like, if you're just considering him as like a random unit you can buy on roll, like you can buy in the mid game, he's probably like bottom of A tier. For here, I'll put him in S. I think Bard's... Okay, so the thing about Bard is that I think like Bard as like a default unit is like really good, and getting a 2-star Bard from Chosen is really good, but the problem is his headliner effect like doesn't really do anything until like, I don't know, your third fight with him. But if you have AP, like you're not gonna skip a 2-star Bard. Recently they just buffed him so that he is guaranteed to do 3 damage dutes and 1 heal dute, which means he's much more consistent as a damage dealer. With this change, also, I think Bard reroll has become a lot more viable than it used to be. Definitely something you consider if you just natural a bunch of Bards. Also, if you have the that Jazz Baby augment, I think it's usually correct to go for Bard reroll, especially if you get it early. But yeah, just a good AP item holder, basically. We have Senna here as well. Same thing with Bard, just a really good item holder. I think she's a little bit worse than Seraphine and Kale, in my opinion, but I mean, she's still good. I would really recommend against playing Senna reroll this patch. It used to be like some niche line in earlier patches, but this patch, with all of the melee running around and like all of the Akali's and Karthuses, she'll actually just end up missing a bunch of ults. Like she'll miss ults against Akali, Viego, and it feels really bad. I would not recommend playing reroll, but she's still a good item holder. I mean, honestly, Aphelio strength-wise is like here, but he's pretty good buy for playing Heartsteel. That's about it. Cat, probably the worst AP item holder, but like she's still pretty good. Actually, Jax is the worst. But yeah, Cat's pretty good. Gragas, you buy him if you need a tank. Same with Garen. Both are fine. Both whatever. They recently got buffs. Don't really think it matters that much. They still are just tanky. They do what they do. If you have a lot of like damage on your team already, obviously just buy them. Jackson B, I think Jax reroll, in my opinion, is basically dead. I haven't seen anyone play it. Feel free to prove me wrong and play Jax, but basically what happened is they nerfed the 5 EDM, which was the really like strong thing about the Jax comp, and like as a default unit he's not very good, so in a chosen list I'm not going to put him that high. Also I think Pantheon is like the worst tank headliner, and also I don't really value taking tank headliners for 2 cost. I guess it's pretty obvious based on how I ranked, but yeah, he's the worst one. He's the worst. Honestly, like I would basically never buy Pantheon unless like I had insane backline already. But like, is he really that bad to put in C? I don't know. BC, I mean, he's still the worst. Now for 3 cost, I think the balance on the 3 cost as like random units you can pick up in the mid game is actually like pretty good. All of them in A tier and S tier, like I'd be okay with just buying them if I see them like naturally in my shops in like Stage 3 or something. Even Lux, like I'm not the biggest fan of Lux, but if you have AP, like a 3-item Lux will basically one-shot stuff in the mid game, especially against people playing Disco. And she can also be like a good item holder for Disco. But just to go over rerolls, because they're relevant, I think Yone, Riven are the best. Vex is probably like the best like standalone unit, and she's also like really good reroll with Twitch and in country. Country Samira also here. Just like all these 4 tanks are very good to pick up. Echo's fine to pick up as well. I think he's actually like, I don't even know why, but like whenever I pick up Echo Chosen, it feels like worse than these. That's like frontline, but I really couldn't tell you why. He's still fine though. Lulu with hyper pop buffs. Decent mid-game AP item holder. Urgot is okay as a dude. MF with AD, but AD's not that popular. Also MF reroll is okay, but not really. uh, yeah, it's kind of mid. Okay, I feel like this was actually worthless. Like, but I don't know. Basically, what I'm saying is that if you see a 3-cost chosen in your shop natural, you should probably buy it if you have items for it. Is basically what this list boils down to, and maybe like highly consider buying Vex as well. For 4 costs, buffs and nerfs means meta shifted a lot. I think Viego is the best headliner right now. He got really massive buffs. I'll go over what comps he goes in, but basically it's like a Superfan pentakill flex line. Both of his chosens are good. He does a lot of burst damage. He can take down like disco clumps, make people low for Karthus, and has good single target damage for melee matchups. He basically does everything you want in this meta. His only weakness would be to something like Ahri, but Ahri has like gone down a lot in popularity since the nerf, so makes him really strong right now. TF and S tier as well. Him and Karthus pretty equal, just good AP item holder. If you get chosen TF on 4-2, you can probably push 9, play a bunch of 5 costs, win the game. Karthus is really good as well. He benefits a lot from KD, Akali, and Viego knocking stuff down, and then he just one-shot stuff. He got buffed this patch, he's really good, same with TF. Also, they buffed like all the AP itemization, made these units a lot better, like all the AP units. And then at A, we have KD Akali. You would basically never skip Akali, Karthus, and Viego in the comp they go in. She's worse than the other two, but you'd still buy her. She's really good on stage 4. She falls off when people start getting Alawies and stuff. She snipes backline. She's pretty bad single target, but that's what your other units are for. Blitz is here. Good frontline for TF comp. Disco is much better than Sentinel. Sentinel's like okay. I still think Ahri is like Sentinel Ahri is like fine, like high B tier. You consider that for that comp as well. Decent, just generic frontliner. But obviously you really want Disco if you're playing TF. Poppy here as well goes into Heartsteel, goes into the Superfan Ahri flex line I'll talk about later. Just a really good unit. Nothing changed from last patch, just prio shifted a little bit. She's actually really good at like 1v2ing stuff like Viego, or like 1v1ing and 1v2ing stuff like Viego and Akali, KD Akali in the end game. She can choose a lot of fights and let you push 9. Zac here, he got a lot of buffs. He was pretty bad earlier. Now he's pretty good. I would advise not keeping him like in like stage 5 unless you're like pushing 9, but on like 4-2, he's really strong. I consider buying him for like AD comps, TF mainly. He's just like a really beefy tank, and I don't think he's a skip when you're rolling down for TF, basically. Ezreal, he's like probably the best thing you could hit if you're playing Heartsteel. Maybe him or Poppy, just depending on your spot. Outside of Heartsteel, like if you're not playing Heartsteel, I really wouldn't buy him. I don't really think AD Flex is that good outside of Heartsteel. That's why I rated Caitlyn low. Ahri's here. I think she's really good early, like on 4-2 as well. She used to be SSS, but she got nerfed, but she's still good. She's like a little bit anti-meta. If like a lot of people are playing Viego and the Riven Yone stuff, she can still be good in like the Sentinel or even like Flex Spellweaver line. Z and B, it's debatable if he's A. I would have to do more testing, honestly. But he'll go in a comp I talk about later. But just as like a flex unit, he's fine. He's like really good for like 4-2, 4-3, and then you sell him. But I'll talk about the comp later. Caitlyn and V, honestly, like you could even justify C for these two. Cait and Thresh, because they're kind of niche right now. The true damage spat got nerfed, so Caitlyn is a lot less purchasable, and also just the generic AD flex is nerfed. But Cait is still a pretty decent unit to buy with Heartsteel cash out, so that's kind of why she's here. She got nerfed and 8-bit got buffed, which basically is power neutral. I don't think she's any worse than last patch. She just has really bad matchups into Karthus comps. Same with Ezreal, same with Jhin. That's kind of the reason why AD Flex is a little bit worse than last patch. And Thresh here as well. I would basically only consider buying him in like TF comp, but he's like the last resort. You would rather have Blitz, Zac, obviously TF, and even Poppy over Thresh, but he's fine. And then C, we have True Damage Akali. Kind of fell to the meta with True Damage spat nerf. Also, I think I was overrating her in like my last video. I don't think she's that good. She's like okay though. But yeah, the True Damage nerf hurts a lot. And then 5 costs. I don't really think it's worth talking about these, honestly. As headliners, you'll barely ever see them. I think Sona has argument for being the best. They buffed damage Sona. I think 2-star 3-item damage Sona is insane right now. Also I put Jhin down because he's so bad. Okay, honestly he's probably not C, but he's like super bad in the Karthus. The average placements stats for Jhin went like in the gutter this patch just because he gets sniped by Karthus and it's really sad. The 6 got buffed, so he's not B tier anymore. Lucian, okay. Like Lucian and Ziggs, I literally just don't have enough experience with. Especially with like they reverted like Lucian's attack speed changes. So maybe headliner Lucian's like the Giga Nuts, and I just don't know. But honestly, yeah, I just don't know. I don't think it matters. It's a 5 cost. Kiana 2 got nerfed quite a bit, actually. They made it so she only copies 1 full item instead of 2 at 2-star, which is a really, really, really big nerf to Headliner because it, like, halved her scaling. So honestly, she might deserve B, but, like, she's still, like, really good disruption and good damage, so doesn't really matter. They're 5 costs, who cares? Now to go into comps. Sorry for, like, showing a bunch of units. I'll explain on the way. This is Disco TF. The core is kind of on the left. It's a 5 Disco plus Alawi, Sona, Echo. I think Echo basically always goes on the board. Sona can be replaced by Lulu. Zach can replace Alawi. And if you're replacing Alawi with Zach, it can also be like Lux. If you have a Disco +1, you can drop the Tarek for like a flex slot, like a Kiana, a Yorick. By the way, I usually don't think it's worth running 4 Dazzler if you don't have Dazzler chosen. So like it's actually fine just running 3 Dazzler. You have Nami Ziggs, like it's actually fine. If you have like Yorick 2, you can drop Nami. Yorick 2, keep the Tarek, 5 Disco with Disco +1, obviously. Items want to go on Blitzcrank, but if you have like a Thresh 2 or a Zac 2, you can go on him instead. Basically always play Alawi and Sona if you have them. I mean, this comp's pretty basic. A lot of people play it. For items, you just want Tank on Blitz. I think Spark on Blitz is like actually insane. It also helps your mid game. I think Spark's one of the best slams this meta. I just got buffed this patch. Kind of why. TF Best, I'm not entirely sure. It depends on the lobby and like how your board is set up. With a lot of frontline and like not that much like secondary damage and stuff, you can actually go for like a full kind of damage build, like Shojin Archangel. If you have like a lot of extra threats like Sona, Ziggs, itemize, you can go for like Gunblade, keep yourself alive. I really, really, really like Morello. I think Morello's his best item by far. He just does everything he wants to do. They recently buffed Morello this patch to give attack speed as well. I think it's a lot better than red buff now because it gives AP and attack speed. It's like really, really good. Shojin is replaceable with Adaptive Helm. I think they're basically interchangeable. Just depends on if you want to kill a sword or a tier first. Last item is either just, I don't know. It's either damage or healing. I'm really not sure if you need Gunblade or not. Haven't done enough testing. And the stats don't really tell me either. The gist I get is that it doesn't really matter. You just slam whatever makes you strong as possible at all points of the game. Like, don't really greed for besides maybe Morello. And just try to like leverage HP to be able to go to 9 because 9 is the only way you'll do well with this comp. If you're stuck at level 8, you will bot 4 unless your lobby's super weak. I usually prefer items on Sona instead of Ziggs as well. Also, if you have Sona 2 in this comp, I think it's always damage after the changes. They made it so that she gains more AP from auto-wing on damage Sona. But at 1 star, it's probably still AS. I still think healing sucks, but I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. Next comp is Pentakill Superfan, or Karthus Superfan, basically. The gist of it is that your core is Nico, Lilia, Gnar, Mord, Karthus, Akali, and then obviously you really, really want the Viego. You're willing to buy Akali, Viego, or Karthus chosen, and you want to itemize each of them. Theoretically, Superfan's actually not that good on this board, but in practice, it's like the only thing you can really play because 1, it's super, super cheap. You can't really afford to play stuff like Thresh 2 over Nico, Blitz 2 over Lilia. Like, those are better units, but hitting stuff like Akali 2, Viego 2, Karthus 2 is a lot of money on level 8 roll odds. Also, it gives you an extra item, which lets you get 3-item Viego, 3-item Akali, 3-item Karthus way like faster than normal. Also helps you stabilize you on 3-item on stage 4. Also helps you stabilize you because like it's cheap and you don't even have to roll that much. Yeah, basically just play Superfan. It's not highest cap, but it's the thing that will get you to the cap 9 times out of 10. BIS Karthus is it's like Shojin damage +1. His Superfan is Archangel, so a lot of times you just end up with Archangel. I don't really think healing's that good on him. The stats actually like Hodge because I think like the 1 tier for the fast cast and the crits is good, but it really doesn't like Gunblade. Death cap is amazing on him, but it's kind of hard to get a death cap sometimes. JG's fine. Morello's actually fine. Shiv is actually fine. Guardbreaker's good. Just build Trojan damage. I think Viego Gigabis is BT Sterex. They have really good interaction because the Sterex proc first gives your unit more max HP, and then the BT procs gives you more shield. Viego wants the stats really well. He has high base HP, high defensive stats as well. And they recently buffed his like AoE slam damage. That's why IE is the last item. His Superfan item is Titans though, so if you're Superfan, just like consider Titans over IE. But honestly, like you don't have to go for Gigabis Viego. It's just, this is what it is. Also for Akali, it's like IE Hodge, red buff, but a lot of the time she'll just end up being like your debuff bot. Like you can go like red buff, Lust Whisper Spark on her or something. Just have her do double shred and anti-heal everyone. Just be your support unit. Have Viego and Karthus do the main damage. But yeah, really, really good comp. Yeah, S tier for sure. And then next is the second Superfan line. It's a little bit different than the other one. We're relying on Ahri as our backline carry. We're a little bit more open to what Chosens we want. In this comp, you play around a core of Lilia, Nico, Kennen, Echo, Ahri, Sona. You can drop Sona for Lulu, it's fine. And then your chosen is one of these 4 units. Zed, Viego, Poppy, or Akali, and you want to give them AD items. I think the tiers go like this. I think Viego's the best, Zed and Poppy are second best, and then Akali's the third best. I think PT Sterix is actually... I know it's best on Viego. I think on Zed, GS is actually better than Sterix by quite a bit, actually. And then on Poppy, it's probably like Titans over BT. I don't know, something like this. If you're willing to play her on all 3 and you want Viego, I mean, just slam like whatever you have. It doesn't really matter that much. But like if you have Viego chosen, you probably want to fill out his traits. Like if he's Pentakill, you just add like a Gnar for 4 Superfan, and then these 8 units are your level 8 board. If it's Edgelord, you can play a Kale, and then you can either drop like Kennen or Sona for the Gnar, just depending. Like if you don't have the Sona, if you have a Lulu, drop like the Lulu. If you have the Sona, maybe with like against you or something, just drop the Kennen. It's like fine. And then eventually go 9 for like Yorick, and then you can put the Kennen back in or something, or you can just drop the Kale for Kane, Yorick. I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, just like fill in the traits as it makes sense. Yeah, if you get Zed, don't play 2 EDM. I don't think it's that good. But like if it's EDM chosen, you probably want to put in like a Kiana if you find it. If it's KDA Akali, you can play random Vex, random Karthus. Poppy, you can play random Vex or like Gnar as well. Just really, really good comp. Solid mix of items, cheap frontline to build. Basically, you can use every single component. Tank items go on like Echo or Nico or something. Definitely S tier, super flexible line as well. Also, like, don't really prio Ahri items. Obviously, the BS from last patch on Ahri hasn't changed, but usually the items on your chosen are better, and Ahri is just like your single target backline support, kinda. But if you can get Ahri Vis, say with like Pandora's or the item that augment that gives you anvils, definitely just still go for it. In S tier as well, we have Twin Terror Twitch Vex Reroll. In my opinion, you really, really, really want Executioner chosen. They buffed for Executioner a lot this patch. Last patch, I would say it didn't really matter between Punk or Executioner chosen, but this patch, I think there's like a really, really big diff. But this comp is super easy. You just take Twin Terror, and then you roll for this board. Notes, I don't think going for double frontline units is good. I see a lot of people actually do it, and I think it's like extremely incorrect. The Twin Terror Augment, I don't know, maybe my editor can like put it on the screen somewhere. The only defensive stats it gives is like 200 HP, and like, yeah, that's fine for your frontlines, Guardian, skills with Guardian. But it gives like crit and attack speed, which is amazing for your backliners. Even if my Vex had no items and none of them were upgraded, I would play two Vex 1s over like a Mumu 2, just because the CC is that valuable. And like even like Vex no items does a lot of damage. Also in this comp, I think BIS is like the most overrated thing of all time because all of your units are carries. Even like the shitter no items are your carries because they just somehow just do like 4k every, like 3 to 4k every fight. So the items I think are important is number 1, MR Shred. I think Spark and Shiv are the best items in this comp by far. Number 2 is Anti-Heal. That's just your Morello, your red buff, whatever you have, just depends on the items you get naturaled. Third is like LW Twitch, kinda. But like honestly, and then you can also go like Even Shroud. So just armor, MR, and Anti-Heal. And then like tank items. Just whatever random AD on Twitch, whatever random AP on Vex is really good. I think cap for this comp, by the way, is Vex chosen. And then you go for Vex 3 earlier. But the most common way to play the line is Twitch chosen. You roll on 6 for Twitch 3. And then that stabilizes you to go for Vex 3 on 7. Both ways are fine. Like, Vex is slightly stronger, though, if you get to max cap. And then on level 7, just play, like, another Amumu or something. I don't know. I think items on Amumu are a lot better than Pantheon, especially this meta with, like, all the melee units. This positioning in particular makes it so that the melees will just walk on your Amumu. That's what you want. Just make sure not to put, like, your other melee units here, because if there's, like, Riven or Yone on this corner... let me see if I can mirror the sides. Yeah, say there's, like, a Yone here. Just don't put your... like a Kali or Pantheon on this side of the board because it'll just run down and hit. If you just put it like here, it'll walk. Oh, actually, it won't walk, but like it'll either like walk to frontline or get one shot. I mean, like if you really want to be safe, you can do this as well because like sometimes edgelord dash is weird. Anyways, I don't know, like you really shouldn't even be worried about this comp with melee because I'm pretty sure if the Yone, even if the Yone dashes on Vex, unless it's like Gigabus Yone 6 Crowdiver, it's getting CC locked into a one-shot anyways. This comp shits on every single melee comp possible. It shits on Viego, shits on Riven, shits on Yone. It can actually lose to like Karthus Akali setups, because Vex and Twitch can be an idiot target Akali, and like usually those boards aren't clumped up anyways, so Karthus gets like 2 or 3 casts, and you don't have much backline bait. Oh, also it can like lose to like TF comps with like Alawi. They can sell your front line, TF can snipe your back, but other than that, you're kind of chilling. Definitely SSS tier, probably like the best on average comp in the game, just because of how stable you are at all points of the game and how easy it is to play. Next in like low S, high A is Riven Reroll. This is one of the comps where hard BIS is required, specifically QSS BT. I will, like, Riven is not a unit, first of all, without QSS, and she also needs healing, and BT is like by far her best healing item. So like if you don't have these two, like just fucking leave the game, no flame. Her last item is a little flexible. GS is like the best by far, but sometimes like oftentimes you're playing Riven and Yone from like from loot streak position, and you can't really afford to greed for last item. Like that happens a lot. So a lot of times you end up with Titans. Titans is fine. Also, you can end up with IE. I think IE is better than Titans for what it's worth. I think this is like true Bis Riven. Basically. And in this comp, 8-bit chosen is preferred. If you get edgelord chosen, like say you're level 8, you can just drop the Lucian Bard for like Corki +1 edgelord. You either duo carry Viego or Caitlyn, depending on like what's upgraded and what your items are. Viego is your 8-bit spat holder if you get 8-bit spats. If you get 8-bit spat, by the way, it's always 6 8-bit over anything. That like it's just broken. Viego can be good at like spreading red buff. Often I go like Morello Viego, because you don't really have that good of a use for an extra belt and a rod in this comp. But like obviously red buff is better in a vacuum. Even Shroud on Mord, you can also put it on Viego. I kind of like it on Mord though, because a lot of time you can get like a pentacle spat on late game carousel, and then it's nice to have like the Viego slot open sometimes. Doesn't really matter that much though. And then like this is probably Caitlyn BIS in this comp. You just want it to like one-shot frontline, but you're never getting this. Probably just gonna end up with random trash in her. So just build whatever random trash you have. Yeah. A lot of times they go like Last Whisper, Runons, just whatever you have. Just don't worry. Super simple comp. The only 3-star you need is Riven. If you have like a reroll augment, like March of Progress, golden tickets, or like shopping spree or something, you can go for like Yone duo carry, especially with like edgelord chosen. But that's like a prismatic reroll augment only kind of thing. I think baseline it's just Riven solo with Kate Viego as your duos. And then now in A tier, I think Yone is a little bit worse, is Yone reroll. I think Yone is less consistent than Riven, just because I think without 6 Grad Diver, he's a little bit weaker. He's a lot less stable on 2-star. Like that Riven board I just showed you, if you have like a random Cater Viego 2, you can actually like win a lot of fights on stage 4, even with Riven 2. Yone 2 is not that good. Yone's BIS is this. It's Hodge, i.e. Titans. If you have Lotus, you can go double Hodge. If you you can also like drop Titans for like double Hodge or like BT. It's fine, but this is generally BIS. Also, you want an even shrub somewhere in this comp. Forgot to put it. But yeah, 6 Crowd Diver is prio. If you don't hit Crowd Diver chosen, you still want to prio 4 Crowd Diver. So say if it's Edgelord chosen, you just play like Kane, I guess, on 8. Yeah, on 7, just roll for Yone, Kale, Viego, Mord, 4 CD. And then on 8, you either play, like if it's Heartsteel chosen, like obviously don't play 4 Heartsteel unless you're like so strong you can grid it. Just play like an Echo for Sentinel. But obviously, if you have 6 Crowd Diver, you play it. If you're missing Kiana, you can also play the Echo, like the Sentinel as well. I don't know, pretty simple comp. Roll on 7 for Yone, hit Yone, sweat positioning every round. Without Ahri in the game, what you want to be doing with this comp is just being same side. Oh, this also applies for Riven, by the way. I should have mentioned it. You just really want to be on same side as the TF clump, and you also really want to be on same side as Karthus. If you're same side against both those comps, you'll probably just win. TF doesn't really have the single target instant burst to deal with Yone. He just gets on backline. Like, even if Yone like dashes like right into the middle of his team, he just doesn't have anything that can burst you. Even if you get stuck in a Nami CC, like you're probably fine unless this whole board is cracked. You can just tank the whole clump and then just cleave everything down. Riven same. And also with Karthus, same thing with like the single target problem. Only way you lose that fight is if somehow Karthus lives on the other side of the map. So just be on the same side and have that happen. Oh, also like in a tangent, but the one way you can win the TF matchup against melee is if, say, they're trying to do the thing I just told you to do, where you put the dude in the corner. Even if you lose disco value, put your main tank, which is usually Blitzcrank, on this hex. If you're on left side. If it's on right side, okay, actually I don't even know if it works on right side. I'm usually just always on left side. But if you put your tank here, there's actually nowhere for this dude to dash. You just can't dash. So what has to happen is that their Yone has to kill your Blitz to access the backline. And a lot of the times it can, because, I don't know, Yone 3 does a lot of damage. but like often it can't, and like that could be like the one way you win the fight. Say you also like line Nami up to target the Yone. Like this is the one way you can win the fight. If you see like a disco player doing this as the Yone player, you might rather want to go for the opposite side wrap or something. I'm not sure. There's probably like a threshold of damage your Yone could have where it can kill the blitz fast enough where this is good. But yeah, it's bad otherwise. Kind of the same with Riven, but Riven reaches that single target threshold a lot faster, especially if there's a Kate, because the Kate will just be able to tap through the blitz probably, especially with GS. Anyways, I've just been on a tangent. I don't know if that's actually useful. You just want to see comps. Yeah, so Yone good comp. I put it in like A tier though, high A tier. And then next in A tier, okay, so it's country. The thing about country is that it's like S tier with a country spat. Where's country spat? Oh, I don't think the website's updated. It's craftable now with a cloak and spat. They removed jazz spat. S tier with country spat, B tier without, so it averages somewhere in A tier. 7 country, just insane. If you have country spat, just drop the set. I think a Mumu is better, and you put the emblem either on a Mumu or Vex, depending on like what your items are and what open slots are. BIS Samira is IE GS +1. If you have an even shroud, it's double IE. If you do not have an even shroud, it's LW. Random AP on Vex. Red buff on Urgot. Also, I prefer even shroud on Urgot. I was doing even shroud on like frontline for a while, but then like I kind of just realized that the frontline usually dies before the Urgot, and even shroud has 2 range. So if you just put your Urgot behind, like it'll reach the enemy frontline and stay alive longer. So I think it's even shroud Urgot. Ideally, you want to be itemizing your Samira first, then your tank, and then support items, and then you go for Vex items on like late game carousels. But if it's country headliner 7 country, you're basically stable with 2 stars on 7, which you used to not be with 5 country, and that lets you go for like all the 3 stars, and like the 3 stars scale your country even more, and you can easily play for a top 2. Even like win the game with 7 country, it's pretty good. Good comp, especially the emblem. And then this is like AD Flex. I don't know. I did have like a whole video about this a week ago, more than a week ago. Most of what I talked about is still pretty relevant. I just wouldn't like I would just hard angle Ezreal because he's not very contested anymore. Hard angle Ezreal Caitlyn. Would only recommend this with Heartsteel, but if you get a Heartsteel cash out, like a big one, like 200 plus, this is still probably one of the best things you can go into. But yeah, like obviously like this board is kind of a placeholder. You can go watch my other video to hear my thoughts about this board. As like a side note, I mentioned it earlier, but Jhin is a lot worse this patch. I mean, this comp is a lot worse this patch because it's really, really bad into Karthus Akali. You basically need Alawi, or even like your cash out board is kind of at risk of getting one-shot. You might want to consider building Edge of Night on your carry this meta. I haven't really tested it. It sounds like good on paper in some matchups if you have like a lot of extra damage. So you have like a 3-item Kate, 3-item Ezreal, maybe you put Edge of Night on one of them so one of them can like clean up at the end of the fight and not get one-shot by a Karthus. But yeah, Jhin and Ezreal and Caitlyn are all very, very vulnerable to getting executed right now. So that's kind of why this comp is not doing the best, even though it didn't even get nerfed. If they nerf Karthus specifically, this comp is probably like back to S tier. It's like around A tier. I would only recommend when playing Heartsteel now though. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Ended up yapping for a bit, but just to like quickly review, these are like the S and A tiers I would always play. There are a lot of other comps, like reroll comps you can play this patch. Like you can play Ahri reroll, you can play Olaf, you can play Yasuo, you can play Bard, you can play Gnar, you can play Cad, you can play Senna, you can play Seraphine, you could play Twitch, you could play Lulu, you could play Lux, you could play MF, like you could. But I just didn't want to put those all in a video. Just, I don't think it's worth it. These are the only comps you need to know. You really need to know to climb. They're like the default quote-unquote comps. But to quickly go over them, we have Disco TF, Akali, Karthus, Viego, Superfan Flex, Ahri, Melee Superfan Flex, Executioner, Twin Terror, Twitch Vex, Riven Reroll, Yone Reroll, Country, and Heartsteel. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Peace.